Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave original presented by Perplexity. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get this podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars. I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. By the way, we have an ad-free version. Check that out, the ad-free version of The Right Time. $5 a month, $50 a year. Go ahead and get on that. And before you do that, this is the time of week where we have a guest join us, coming to us live from Chicago, Illinois. Check him out on The Ringer. Check him out on the Bulls pregame and postgame. Well, ain't nobody watching the Bulls right now, but it's whatever. Jason Goff, what's going on?
You know, I listened to, what's up, bro? I listened to the last episode. I listen every time you drop, and you and Vinny, man, you are the constant voices reminding the world that Scottie Pippen should not be celebrated.
That's right.
You know,
that's right.
You got to imagine how hard it is for me to watch an Eastern Conference Finals now, where I'm watching Indiana and New York, teams that during my childhood it was like the leftovers. You feel me? So people, thank you.
People get hot when I say this about Scottie. Now, I'm not nearly as fervent about this as Vinny's old Detroit basketball ass.
Oh, yeah.
Vinny harder. And in fact, now that I think about it, the guy that said that Mike went in the Hall of Fame is 2 people is not Vinny, but he is also from Detroit. I know. It's disrespectful what Vinny does. You mess around and poke and then smile about it. Vinny out stares you in your soul. Hold on. I don't even be poking. I feel like I'm trying to put people up on game, right? Like, I'm telling people the truth when it comes to Scottie. Vinny be out here making headache jokes. That's what the difference is between me and him. Vinny goes super hard on
real
Scottie.
Life bully.
But the irony of it is, to go super hard on Scottie is actually for the Detroit dude to take the Michael Jordan approach to Scottie Pippen. Because to me, the funniest thing in The Last Dance, right? Because The Last Dance had a lot of things going on. It didn't really have that much comedy. The funniest thing in The Last Dance is that after all these years, right? What was then 30 years, and I feel comfortable saying 35 because I am positive that Mike still feels the same way. After all those years, Michael Jordan still cannot wrap his mind around the idea that a headache stopped Scottie Pippen from showing up in that game. And I want to be very clear about something, just so everybody understands where I come from on this particular issue. I'm totally team Scottie on this. I've never had a migraine, but everybody that's ever had a migraine, none of them struggle to understand what Scottie was going through. In fact, Scottie deserves credit for doing what he did with the migraine. And I think that just about everybody else in the world wants to give Scottie credit for that, except for one man. And that one man is Michael Jordan. He still can't see it.
Yeah. And that's no pun intended, right? A man is seeing 3 different Dennis Rodmans at once. He's seeing 4 different Bill Laimbeers. His neck hurt, his head hurt, he's nauseous. And Mike is like, hey, man, what you gonna do?
And didn't he play like 38 minutes or something like that?
It's not like Scottie asked out of the game. Scottie had old school 90s, late 80s playoff minutes on a migraine. And everybody's like, oh, look at this sucker. Look at this dude. And of course, it had to be, basketball's version of snitching ass Randy and Michael Jordan, who was like, you know what? I don't understand why people can't be great in these circumstances.
He said in The Last Dance, he was like, hey, Scottie says his head hurts. That's the farthest in 30 years. The farthest that he could get was, hey, man, look, Scottie says his head hurt, and Scottie says his head hurt.
Can you imagine, The Last Dance kind of helped us, but like just being around that on a daily basis where you traveling with the Beatles and he is the number one dude. He is the god of this thing, the cable television, the crossroads of Nike marketing, cable TV, league needing the next dude. And he lands on you, a dude from Central Arkansas who first you got to go through Charles Oakley bullying you for a couple of years. And
slapping you in the face on camera.
And one of the most outstanding local television commercials keeps popping up with the Mr. Submarine thing, where it's him and two Bulls cheerleaders on the practice floor eating hoagies. Like it was all early 90s was a rough period for Scottie, even though he was winning championships.
Dude, it's him in The Last Dance. It was just really kind of sad.
Yes.
Like the whole way. And on top of it, I think this is an underrated part. And I think that Mike was talking about this, right? Scottie did not go in that game in 94. And never forget, Kukoc did hit the shot, right? Which just made it all even worse for Scottie, right? There's a part, if you read in the Jordan rules, and it talks about the time that James Worthy got caught in Houston with the prostitute, right? By the way, James Worthy got out of jail, came and helped the Rockets win a game that night, right? Like that's that old school focus.
Big
you know
game,
what I'm saying?
James.
That's that old school focus. But Mike's thing about that was, hey man, you can't lose the people. Like once you lose the faith of the public, there's no turning back. And he like truly ached for Worthy because of his understanding of what happens when you lose the public. And that is the lens through which he also views Scottie not going in the game, right? Like I think there's a part of Mike that understands, hey, I want that shot. But then Mike was like, oh, not like that, right? Not like that.
Yeah, he's one of those figures in Chicago sports history. Like Scottie was my favorite Bull. Like Mike was separate from everybody else, right? Mike was everybody else's. And I think Bears fans right now, and you mentioned we'll talk about Caleb Williams, but having something that is everyone else's in this city is kind of one of those things where it's like we kind of shroud ourselves in the second city aura, and we're the big city in the middle of LA and New York. So something that's ours. That's why Derrick Rose, who was so fiercely ours, if Derrick Rose was more comfortable with the spotlight and was marketed differently, he would have become everybody else's as well. Scottie seemed like for that run, okay, this is our thing because we understand on a nightly basis what Scottie means. But when you're Michael Jordan and you did everything that he did leading up to it, Olympics and all these other things, man, you can cast a cloud over many. And now Scottie obviously hasn't looked good for the last decade or so, going back and forth on his thoughts on Michael. So it's been a rough run for him, and the off the court stuff as well.
Let me tell you, this is the toughest thing for Scottie. Like, and this is the toughest thing about being around Jordan. When I was in graduate schools, before I got to Carolina, I had been accepted to the program, made the acquaintance of my advisor, Sandy Darity, to this day, the most brilliant man I've ever met. All right. And I was having a hard time in school at that time, right? Your boy was struggling, right? Like it was stressing me out. I wasn't really digging it. Like it was just tough. I didn't have the motivation, right? And I hit Sandy up and I asked about what it was like, if he had any, experience when you just didn't have it, dialing it back up. And Sandy told me that, yeah, maybe he could feel like that for a day, maybe two. Then get right back on it. Maybe I needed to go get some help. Which, by the way, fair observation.
Yeah.
However, it's tough when whoever your OG happens to be is locked in all the time. I used to see Sandy walk around campus walking and reading books at the same time. He was always locked in. That's Mike. Mike cannot understand. I just ain't really got it like that today. Nope. Mike had it like that every single day. Yo, man, that is rough.
So it now begs the question, who's the greatest player to become a great coach? Because that's pretty much the problem,
Larry
right?
Bird.
Like but he had Rick and he had, was it Dick
Hold on.
No pun intended.
Hold on.
Who else did he have on that staff?
Your best. I mean, look, if your best player is Reggie Miller and you got 3 straight years that you go to the conference finals, 1 year where you go to the NBA finals, your second best player, actually, the year they went to the championship, the best player on that team was Jalen Rose. Jalen Rose will go down as the only player who was the best player on an NBA finals team who will not make the Hall of Fame. Now, you can make the argument that it was Reggie Miller because Reggie Miller was Reggie Miller. But, like, I was talking to Joel as we have this discussion. He was trying to say Jimmy Butler's not a Hall of Famer. Best player on an NBA Finals team is a Hall of Famer. And he did it twice.
Yeah.
Like, they're all Hall of Famers. Scoring champions. They're all Hall of Famers, literally, except one.
Jalen Rose, when he became a Chicago Bull for that little period of time, I was a big Fab Five dude. Like, it changed my life. What was happening? You know, they were listening to the same music I was listening to. They liked the things that I liked. We were all kids that, you know, CVS's finest, Juwan Howard, you know, right down the way. I'll never forget walking into Gibson's Steakhouse shortly after Jalen Rose was traded to the Bulls.
I love that place.
The Gibson's is the best, man. You talk about old school vibes, you know, wooden furniture everywhere. Jalen walks in with a furry white Kango and a Peyton Manning jersey. And this is a 6'8" black man walking into this restaurant. And I was like, I know what a star looks like on the court, but I also know what a star looks like off. The Jalen always had that something about him. Being the hub at Michigan, being the hub for that Indiana team. Like, Jalen was that dude. Jalen's one of those guys where if he is your favorite player just for whatever quirky reason, I'm not mad at it. Like, we need more conversations like that. And hopefully post MJ, post LeBron, post Kevin Durant, post Steph NBA will allow these kids to have favorites. Like, hey, Jalen's my favorite player.
Well, I do think that this era of basketball that is a little, these kids have been businesses for too long, right? Like, they are lacking in personality in a way that's a bit, at least in front of us, right? Because they're so trained, they're so coached, they're so conditioned to minimize the risk of losing the money. Because, as I talked about before, completely missing that personality makes you money, right? Anthony Edwards is as bankable as he is, not just because of his game, but because he's Anthony Edwards and we like him and he has a personality, right? I work with Jalen Rose, or in the same office with Jalen, for a couple of years. When I did Game Theory, Jalen was kind enough for our first episode to come in and be part of the shot. Jalen and Charles Barkley are the two best people whom I've met. Bruce Feldman uses this to describe Charles. He's better at being famous than anybody else. And Jalen Rose is 100% that dude, where you just in the office and now cater lunch. Because Jalen Rose is rich ass, bought lunch for everybody. And by the way, he ain't even there, right? He has left for the day. He's just come in and he's laid out the spread, right? But he's also so much more famous than I think that people realize because of that 5'5" thing. But again, so good at it. You see Jalen Rose walk in a restaurant, he the king. Like, Jacoby's talk about all the rules that Jalen had for, like, how you do this. But Jalen is the best story I've ever heard about him. A friend of mine told me he's walking around with Jalen in Toronto when he played there. And a reminder also of just how famous he is. A homeless person. I don't know if that's the appropriate term. A houseless person.
Unhoused, right? I think they're going with now.
A dude on the street with tattered rags. Okay? How about that, right? Comes up and is like, Jalen Rose, da-da-da. He starts going. Keep in mind, we're in Canada, all right? And he's going on and on about how he's Jalen Rose and how he's the Fab Five, how he's the biggest fan of the Fab Five and all of this. And Jalen's like, all right, then. But if you can tell me all five, I'll give you the money I got in my pocket. And the guy squared up. Chris Webber, Jalen Rose, Juwan Howard, Jimmy King, Ray Jackson.
Let's go.
And Jalen, true to his word, reached in his pocket and gave him the money. And the dude that told me the story was like, it had to be $10,000.
Of course.
You know, like, he's that guy.
Rubber band man.
Yeah. He's that guy. And he ain't have to do that. He ain't have to do that at all.
At all. That's a man of his word.
Him. But also, an unhoused man, years and years and years after the fact, he ain't never going to forget who the Fab Five was.
Ever. They went down in history. Now that you see, but when you mention when he was in Toronto, the first thing I think of is,
I know you're going to talk about that 81.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, everybody got a piece of that.
Bro, I got to be honest, man. Them NBA players, they got more dignity. Or, I don't know if dignity is the right word. I'm just saying, I remember there was a play at the end of that game where Kobe's racking up the points. And he dribbles the ball to the right because he's done with been done with passing, right? He dribbles it toward the right. He gets stopped on the baseline. He gets double teamed. Also, the Lakers, if I'm not mistaken, are way up at this point. Mm-hmm. He gets stopped over there. They get him in the trap. And he called a timeout. And I'd have been like, oh, no. No more buckets.
Elbows coming.
Buckets are
Elbows
over.
coming.
Buckets are over. Not one person put him on his ass on that. No.
And that was Mo Pete too. That was Mo Pete. That was a whole bunch of dudes. I mean, I worked with Sam Mitchell when I was in Atlanta, and Sam is one of my favorite people of all time. And you talk about a lot. That's coach of the year. This, that, the other. Bring up that 81 game if you want to. Sam will tell you, hey, I threw everybody on him. At what point y'all gonna look at me in the suit and be like, he can't do nothing about this, right? and on top of it, like you mentioned, there are just egregious. Like, I think the legend of Kobe being the greatest difficult shot maker of all time, it also comes with Kobe took some of the worst shots that you will ever see in basketball history. Right? Like things where it's like, that's the wrong foot. That's a double. That's a trap. You picked your dribble up. Okay. It's the Suns and that's Steve Nash. You disrespecting them. You putting it up. Like, and by the way, cause I've heard you speak about, and I've never been able to lock you down on things of this nature. Cause I heard you speak about Brown. I've heard you speak about, Mike, the Kobe thing. When people are like, crazy LeBron files or Kobe files, where do you fall on Kobe and not only the legacy and legend, and posthumously now we talk about it, and it's got that Notorious B.I.G. feel where it's like he was amazing, but then when a person dies, it goes to another level. Because now, I am always stuck in hey y'all, Tim Duncan was playing during that era as well. Like, there's people who caught some licks while he was in the same conference as him. Like, I'm never here to denigrate Kobe's legacy, but I've always wondered where you stood on the entire being that is Kobe Bryant.
It was an easier conversation when he was alive.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right.
It was an easier conversation when he was alive. Kobe and LeBron James are not in the same class of player. I don't, if he's your guy, I understand why he would be your guy. And he's got the 5 championships, and the idea that he was merely a passenger is not really fair for the Shaq time. Like, I do think Shaq was a better player, but go look at Kobe in the 01 playoffs. He was as good as
the Philadelphia series.
Been. Yeah. And that was, he was better in the 2 series before that.
The Nets series?
No. I'm talking about the 2 series in 01 when they were running everybody out of there. When they ran the Spurs out. I mean, I can't even, like, it was so bad. There's no point in like trying to remember exactly who it was. Right. He was that guy. Like that to me, there was never a better version of Kobe than that version of him, even if that version was him at 22 years old. Like, that was the illest. And then a lot of weird stuff happened, right? Like
almost became a bull.
Yeah.
Just didn't want Luol Deng to go the other way.
Yeah. It's a lot. But as I'm getting the text of irony is correct, I need to ask you this before we go too far. And for those who are not aware of what happened, Seth Wickersham of ESPN Magazine is writing a book about quarterbacks, and some of this book has come out, and there are things in that book about Caleb Williams that are absolutely fascinating, okay? It speaks of, one, the lengths to which his father went to try to make sure that he did not play for the for the Bears.
Both.
Because the Bears kill quarterbacks, right? They've never had a good quarterback. He did everything he could to try to do this. And when I say everything, they tried to tell the Bears not to draft him. They tried to figure out how they could go to court. They were ready to shut down the whole draft. They're like, well, what if he goes to the UFL? If he does that for a year, can he come back and not have to go to the Bears? The Bears told him, we are drafting you no matter what you say here. They did all of this. Williams' father clearly looked at offensive coordinator Shane Waldron and said, no, this is bad. He should not be playing for this guy. This guy's going to be a problem. And then Caleb says to him, nah, I got it. We'll be fine. Halfway through the season, Waldron gets fired, and it appears that everything that Papa Williams was saying was proven to be correct. They weren't watching film with the young man. They weren't doing the things that were needed to help him develop any of that. He looked terrible for stretches during the year last year. And everything, I think people have looked at this like, oh man, how dare Caleb Williams try to do this and has this audacity, except for the fact that, and this is the feeling I got coming out of what I read, except they were right. Like if this had come out before the season, it might have looked terrible for him. I actually thought he came out looking better because in spite of knowing this was a terrible idea, he still said, fine, I'll go there.
Yeah. So shout out to Seth and by the way, do you know when this book is dropping?
I do not.
It is dropping after the Bears play the Minnesota Vikings week 1. The Minnesota Vikings are heavily mentioned in these excerpts about, the conversations he had with Kevin O'Connell and obviously his offensive brain and those two linking up and being like, man, it'd be super dope if I could play for you, but you don't have the number 1 overall pick. Man, let me tell you something right now. As a father of an 8-year-old and now a 4-month-old, there are certain people who I'm not just going to put my baby in anybody's hands. And you can say what you want to say about, helicopter dads and all this other stuff. You want to put your kid in the best position for success. You know what this position of the least success has been in the NFL when it comes to quarterbacking? The Chicago Bears starting quarterback. You might throw Cleveland Browns in there as well, but, and it's not that this is some far-flung, way back in the day. Ask Justin Fields, who is now on his 3rd team. Ask Mitchell Trubisky, who is getting ready to be out the league here in a few years. Like, this is not some program or some organization where you can think to yourself, well, maybe they had a rough go of it, or maybe it's just poor talent evaluation. They've been running this thing, unfortunately, like a mom and pop shop. Meanwhile, everybody out there is doing Target and Walmart stuff when it comes to that position. So if I am Carl Williams and I'm looking at you dead in the face and understanding what you haven't been, everything, it's kind of like the Shedeur Sanders story and stuff that we talked about offline. There's a lot of truth all around, right? It doesn't have to be one side or the other. And if you are a Chicago Bears fan and you don't understand how Carl Williams feels, well, that means you're just having a bad faith argument. You're having a conversation that shouldn't be happening. You know what this legacy has been or lack thereof. And then on top of it, Ryan Poles being the dude like, I don't care. I'm a draft you anyway. We're going to figure this thing out. It took one visit to a facility for him to be like, all right, I see what the energy has been. I can kind of change it. And then they drop you in Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron's lap, and you busy not respecting the persons that you are supposed to respect to bring you along. And if you look at the numbers, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I know the Jaden Daniels, shout out to Charlie Kravitz, he's going to kill me for this. I know the Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams conversation went way left after Jaden rocketed and propelled that team to a playoff berth. But you look at some of the numbers, and with the weapons that he didn't have and the offensive line that he didn't have, the dude had himself a decent enough season numbers-wise. It's just it didn't feel like it was supposed to feel with all the hype leading into it. But I don't blame him. I don't blame his daddy. And I don't blame the Bears, because after a while, you go to that bar again and again, and you're hoping to leave with that winner. And, you keep chopping at that tree. That's exactly what they keep doing. And hopefully Caleb Williams that dude. But I don't see how anyone could be mad at Carl Williams or Caleb Williams for anything that's getting ready to come out in this book, because the Bears quarterback position and offense has been a shit show since I was a child.
All right. Put a pin in what you just said right there about Dad and Shedeur Sanders and Ryan Poles and not being mad at anybody, because I have a thought directly tied to that we will get to right after this. This show is brought to you by Perplexity. Perplexity is an AI-powered answer engine that searches the internet in real time to give you fast, high-quality answers with sources. Unlike legacy search engines that respond with a list of links, Perplexity skips straight to the answers you need, explained in easy-to-understand everyday language with sources and citations.
That's right, Bo. Often we use Perplexity to look things up, find information. For example, earlier last week, we used it to find out what else have Jokic's brothers done. Perplexity quickly gave us information about the eclectic lives of both Jokic brothers.
Discover fast and reliable search for Perplexity today. Download the app or ask Perplexity anything at perplexity.ai. It's playoff time, and if you're still just watching games, you're missing out. With Pick 6 from DraftKings, you can turn your hoops knowledge into real cash. Nobody's dropping better payouts than Pick 6. Hit 6 and that's 25 times your cash. And if you beat your competition, you'll be looking at a 500-time bag in your pocket. And right now, new customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry. The playoffs are on, so why not take a shot at making a little money while you're watching? Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now and use code Bomani. That's code Bomani to play $5 and get $50 in bonus picks. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only on Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Mental health awareness is growing, but there's still progress to be made. 26% of Americans who participated in a recent survey say they have avoided seeking mental health support due to fear of judgment. When people hesitate to get help, it doesn't just affect them. It impacts families, workplaces, and entire communities. This Mental Health Awareness Month, let's encourage everyone to take care of their well-being and break the stigma. The world is better when people are healthy and happy. When people hesitate to get help, it affects more than just them. It impacts families, workplaces, and entire communities.
Bo, that's right. Therapy can be great because it's helpful for learning positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, and empowering you to be the best possible version of yourself.
This Mental Health Awareness Month, let's encourage everyone to take care of their well-being and break the stigma. The world is better when people are healthy and happy. We're all better with help. Now visit BetterHelp.com/Bomani to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Bomani. All right, we are back on the right time with Jason Goff. And just to recap, right, in case you popped in during the break, we're talking about how Caleb Williams' daddy was like, hell no, you ain't going to the Bears, right? And the Bears were like, too bad, so sad. You are coming, all right? And Caleb Williams' daddy had gone through all these steps to figure out how to stop him from going to the Bears and everything else, right? I remember last month, y'all was trying to tell me that the reason Shedeur Sanders slipped in the draft is because him and his daddy were trying to shake things up too much, and the league decided to teach him a lesson and show them who's really in charge and then let him slip in the draft, okay? Now, I am going to, for a moment, just hold out the possibility that maybe, just maybe, that isn't the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Just for right now, right? I'm a chill out and we'll have a suspension of disbelief and think for a moment that that could be the case.
New premise.
The Williamses were trying to figure out how to break the whole draft, how to skip the whole draft. We ain't going there. How do we get to Minnesota? They were absolutely trying to upend things in the ways that you guys believed that Shedeur and Deion were trying to upend things, right? They were trying to use whatever leverage they had the same way that the Sanderses were trying to use whatever leverage they had, right? Okay? And you know how the NFL taught Caleb Williams a lesson? By taking him with the number 1 overall pick. That's how they did that. That's how they taught him. That's how they learned him, by guaranteeing him tens of millions of dollars. That is how they put him in check. So I need you to explain to me once again how it is that the untamable black buck, they showed him by letting him go to the 5th round. All these teams that could use a quarterback. Nope. Not one of them went and got this dude that you swear up and down to me is a can't-miss star. They let him go all the way down to the 5th round of the draft to teach him a lesson. But when it was time to teach Caleb Williams a lesson, they beat his ass with money. That is how they did it. They money whipped his ass. That's what they did. Do you now understand why I had to talk to y'all the way I had to talk to y'all back then? I'm not saying that the white man won't from time to time put you in check. I'm just telling you that if Shedeur Sanders was that good, they would put him in check with a check.
Right.
We ain't going to that many teams. They like, yeah, you damn right you're not going to that many teams.
We agree with you, actually.
Yeah, we agree with you. Caleb Williams, they was out here trying to go to court. Like they wasn't just trying to be mischievous about it. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't just trying to be like, nah, we don't feel like playing with y'all. They wasn't just out here talking that shit. They was out here calling the best lawyers they could find. Yeah. And you know this about me. I am king abolish the draft. I am big on the idea of figuring out how to use your leverage. You're the first person
that I heard say that. I see there's a lot of people jumping up with that now. Yeah. You're the first person that I heard say that years and years and years ago.
I've been here. I ain't new to this. I'm true to this, right? We've been talking about the revolution over here, dog. I talked about the revolution on HBO. I'm about that life, dog.
Yes, sir.
Them Sanders ain't about no revolution. They was just trying to get over. Caleb Williams was actually out here because if it worked for him, it will work for everybody.
And that's the thing.
He was actually they were trying to up in the game. And the NFL was like, how'd you like $50 million?
We'll show these uppity Negroes by plastering you on every billboard, giving you a New Balance and Chrome Heart contract while making you the face of the next video game if you're halfway decent.
All I'm saying is, we've come a long way, baby. You know what I'm saying? And this is how they decide to show up.
Yeah. And you can flip that to another one of your favorite topics of 2024/2025. It's part of the reason why everybody in the industry was upset at Drake for so long. Because it's like, hey, man, you got the most power. You see this shit that they paying us for streaming? Whereas before you used to have to go to Sam Goody Coconuts, kids, do your Googles, right? To go get yourself a $12, $13 album. We get a couple of points off that. Now it takes 6 billion streams for me to make $50. Change this. Right. Change this ambiguously biracial man. And he didn't want to, right? He didn't want to. And then now when Kendrick dropped on his head, it's like, hey, we got to change this system, y'all. Right. Your boy Carl Williams went in there like, hey, I understand the shield, but F all that. Yeah. We want an LLC where you can send this money to. We don't want to play for you. It's crazy. It's crazy.
He's been on this forever. And let me tell you something. I think this is an underrated thing to talk about with Caleb Williams because we see so many people who don't do this, okay? It is easy to forget that in the year 2021, Spencer Rattler came into that season as a Heisman Trophy candidate for real. And we have forever seen these quarterbacks avoid going to places where you might be behind a guy like that, right? And even if he wasn't first round pick guy, Spencer Rattler, I believe at that point was like a redshirt sophomore or something like that. But there was a chance that going to Oklahoma meant riding the pine. Caleb Williams legitimately believed I am the best quarterback in America. And he felt like he would have took that job anywhere he went. And Rattler was playing like dog shit against Texas that year. They put him out and Caleb Williams was in there. And it was like, oh, okay, this is a wrap. Like and look, Spencer Rattler is an NFL quarterback, right? He played reasonably well in the SEC. He was a good player. But the fact that Caleb Williams is like, it don't matter, I'm better. Quentin Ewers, I am convinced that Quentin Ewers cost himself tens of millions of dollars because he graduated from high school. All money ain't good money, right? He graduated from high school early because Texas would not allow NIL payments. And so he graduated early, kind of out of nowhere, and went to Ohio State so that he could get that bread. He got there. CJ Stroud won the job as a redshirt freshman. Ewers then transferred to Texas, which, look, wasn't a terrible move. It worked out okay, and Texas had players, and they went deep in the playoff and everything else. All I'm saying is Ewers would have stayed at Ohio State. He'd have been up there throwing to what's his name, son, right? He could have been out there throwing.
My bad. My bad. You're right.
He was talking,
right.
that Jeremiah Smith dude. All I'm saying is this: Ohio State always got the receivers, and if he would have just sat and rode the pine for those 2 years, I bet you he would have wound up being in a better situation. I mean, he wouldn't have been no 7th round pick. I don't think that would have happened.
So in this new economy that we have, how many kids will make the mistake of over evaluating that they think they are Caleb Williams and they are not? Because you and I, you've mentioned this to me before about Caleb at every level has thought and then performed like he was the man, right? Like, hey, I'm the best one here. He busted 50-yard run against the Longhorns. You're like, yep, that job is gone. And now he's in this situation where when they drafted the punter the same year, Torrey Taylor, he called him and said, we won't be using you much, right? Like this dude has come in with this ridiculous amount of confidence and backed it up at every level. Now he's going to have to do that, of course, with the wonderkin that is Ben Johnson and all. But yeah, man, take it back to old school competition. Like you remember, like you said, I remember when a rapper used to be a go-getter. This dude's always been a go-getter.
Now all these rappers, right? Okay, so this is my thing, though, about staying in the place. And I think this is what these guys misunderstand. You only need 1 year of film. You don't need to play for 3 years. I'm not convinced that playing for quarterbacks, I'm not convinced that those reps actually make you better, right? Like, I think that physical and mental maturity are the things that matter the most. And for some people, getting out there too early actually works in the opposite direction, right? But all you need is 1 year of film. So if I were a quarterback, I went to Ohio State, and Ohio State does this. They get all these highly touted quarterbacks, and it basically turns into with the Mike Tomlin line, right? 2 dogs, 1 bone. Mm-hmm. Hey, man, you should have enough confidence that by the time you are a junior, you will be better than whatever freshman they come in. Like, that's what you shouldn't be afraid of, is that you're going to be in this system in 2 years, and you're going to be grown and lose your job there. Nah. If you got a good situation at a school, I would say stick around there, because also if you don't make the NFL, then boosters and everybody remember the 4-year guys a lot longer than they remember the 1-year guys. And you could always get a gig selling cars, pushing insurance, whatever it happens to be. But all these guys
being on a local radio station.
Right. But all these guys leaving every year to go get something. I'm like, no. I think you guys are all doing this wrong. And let me tell you who clearly seems to agree with me about this one. Archie Manning and family. Arch stayed there. You think Arch couldn't have gone somewhere and played earlier?
Also, it's the place that, has the boosters, has the great resources around it. And you're going to get first round picks at those positions. Like you mentioned, he could, and if he wanted to, would have went somewhere else and played early. I wonder how that changes the calculus, because how long had we heard for years and years and years about, well, this guy's only got 13 starts. This guy's only got 20 starts. Hell, I remember Cam Newton getting the knock on him because he was reading numbers off the play sheet and off his placard on his wrist instead of calling plays.
Look here. I recognize that those two, the two guys I'm about to mention, are anomalies. But somebody took Cam Newton and Anthony Richardson in the top 5, right? Now, of course, they are quite possibly the 2 most physically gifted quarterbacks who have ever played, right? And Richardson, wild as this sounds, from what the film guys tell me, was more pro-ready than Cam was, based upon the things he was doing. He's just that wild inaccuracy, right? But Cam Newton was like, come on, dude, you take that guy. 2011 is going to go down as one of the greatest drafts in the history of the NFL. Cam Newton is not going to make the Hall of Fame. If you do a redraft, you still take Cam Newton number 1. Over Von Miller, over J.J. Watt, over Richard Sherman, Julio Jones is in that draft. That draft was loaded, and you still take Cam Newton number 1.
Julio Jones, when I was in Atlanta, and that was the peak Julio years. Julio Jones, greatest player who was the least, assuming that I've ever been around, seen, or heard about. Andre Johnson might have had that vibe in Houston, but Andre still University of Miami dude, different kind of swagger.
But not like Julio. Not like
Man, Julio mess around and go for 200 yards against the Saints and be on a fishing boat for the next 3 days until the next practice. Like, Julio was next level.
Like 200 yards, probably no touchdowns. That's the weird thing.
Guy.
By the way,
Don't
also in that draft, Patrick Peterson, AJ Green, Tyron Smith. Like that was that was an unreal draft, and you still take Cam Newton. I will tell people forever. I will never forget this as long as I live. Cam Newton's first game in the NFL, he threw for 400 yards. They played a game at Arizona, and he threw an interception, and he got so mad that he went to try to make the tackle, and Darrell Washington made the interception. Darrell Washington was a Pro Bowl linebacker, and when Cam Newton ran up on Darrell Washington slid like he was a quarterback.
Tuesday
night, the freight train was coming.
Tuesday night in Atlanta. This is a life ago. It's 2013, I want to say. I'm at a spot, got a little section with my people, and a door opens from behind us where I didn't even think there was a door. And the Charlie Murphy story about Rick James with the orange glow, the aura. Cam Newton walked through, and it was as if the biggest human with the broadest shoulders and smallest waist, wearing red pants and a white shirt and a red top hat. I had never seen any, and being in Chicago, you see some stars, you see some athletes, this is Jordan, all that good stuff. I had never seen a person consume a room just by their physical presence in that manner before. I've been around Shaq on the inside the NBA studio, at the inside the NBA studio. It's different when there's a crowd, a sea of people, and it's Atlanta on top of that, and it's an off day, and they just played. Oh yeah, it's time to get it on. Cam Newton's one of those supernovas that I am glad I got a chance to witness. Like a lot of kids who are a little bit younger than me never get a chance. To see Bo Jackson.
It was a thing, dog. It was a thing, man.
Yeah.
The Bo Jackson thing we'll never be able to explain to you, right?
Ever.
Like the only thing that we can tell you is if you think that back in the day everybody was plumbers, that's fine. If that's what you think. It was those plumbers against the creative player.
That's it?
Like, if that's what you need, fine. Okay, there's not been a football player as physically gifted as Bo Jackson since Bo Jackson.
And we could go baseball, too. I remember when Yasiel Puig hit the scene. I remember when Mike Trout hit the scene. For a couple of minutes here in Chicago, we saw Luis Robert Jr. before he started staking up the joint. Like, there are certain dudes, you look at them physically and go, oh, no. That dude don't belong on a baseball field. That is who Bo Jackson was. Bo Jackson doing the Spider-Man walk on the outfield in Kansas City, the game with him and Deion Sanders. Stop playing.
I'll just tell people this. You will see a clip on the internet. It bounces around from time to time of Bo Jackson taking a fly ball. I want to say it was in Yankee Stadium, playing right field. And he catches his fly ball and then flat-footed throws a rope to, and it's pretty deep into right field. Flat-footed throws a rope to third base to stop the runner tagging up. What you need to understand about that play is Bo Jackson wearing a gray White Sox jersey. What does that mean? That means he made that throw with an artificial hip.
Yes, sir.
That is what means.
Yes, sir. The Kansas City footage too. The man.
I mean, the Kansas City footage is unfair. The fact that he can still do it with the artificial hip is its own thing. Well, the throw in Seattle where he just catches the ball off a bounce, and there's not even a good camera angle of the throw because nobody could consider the possibility that the throw was even possible.
Greatest athlete you've ever seen perform?
Bo Jackson.
It's Bo, just flat out.
Just athlete. Just straight athlete. It's Bo Jackson. And you know who number 2 probably is? Deion.
Camp? Oh, Deion. Okay.
Hey, man, Deion was a legit baseball player. Like, I think it's hard for people to be perhaps the greatest at what might be the hardest position in the NFL and then be a for real legitimate baseball player.
Yeah, go look at some of those Reds numbers. Like, Deion was that dude.
Braves numbers.
Dude, Deion was that dude. Do you ever think? Well, no, because at that time it was Brian Jordan.
Yes.
And Deion. It was like 2 or 3 guys who were trying that out, if I'm not mistaken, right?
No, Brian Jordan was making it work, and then the Cardinals made him quit playing football. He was a Pro Bowl. He and Deion were on the same team playing 2 sports.
Can you imagine what late 80s Atlanta was like with those 2 dudes running? Early 90s Atlanta was like running around with those cats.
Keep in mind, Deion was there, and Dominique was still there. Dominique was still there, and the Braves, the 91 through 93 Braves were black. Like, that was a lot of brothers on the squad. That's easy to forget as baseball has changed. And when I say black, I mean African American. Had Alani,
Terry Pendleton, David
Terry,
Justice,
Alani, Otis. You know what I'm saying? David Justice was married to Halle fucking Berry.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. This was a different time in baseball, though, bro.
It was a different time. We had a Brian, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was a lot of brothers on that squad, man. It was a lot of brothers. And so Black Atlanta was into the Braves in a way that, again, I don't think that people can grasp. Like, when that team hit, everybody felt a share of ownership. I wasn't even in Atlanta at the time, and I know this.
I didn't appreciate the place that certain stars held in Atlanta because of what people thought Atlanta to be as a sports town until I got down there and had my first conversation about Matt Ryan, and immediately the phone lines lit up. He ain't no Mike Vick. And I was like, wait a minute, hold on, gang. Like, I'm just talking about the current dude. And then getting to work with Dominique, I'll never forget Dominique walking through the tunnel, and he and I are talking, and he's talking, they got a meeting up there acting like any of them was ever better than me. And I knew exactly who he was talking about at the time, and I knew exactly who the GM was, who later on went on to say some things about Luol Deng that weren't too kind. I'm like, oh, you don't want Dominique on your bad side, baby, because Atlanta will rain down on you with the terror.
First of all, I once saw Dominique when he did not make the top 50 team, and this was many years after he didn't make the top 50 list, to explain that he actually should have been top 25, which I thought was a very ambitious appraisal of his whole career, but that is the way that Dominique sees it. The other thing, I was talking to somebody about this. Doesn't matter who, doesn't matter what I know. But what I know, I'm going to tell you. But basically, the Hawks have a serious problem in Atlanta with black males age 35 through 55. And we all have the same problem. They traded Dominique.
Yeah.
People never went back. They traded Dominique.
For Danny Manning. For
a semester of Danny Manning.
Right. He stayed there a little bit longer than Rasheed, who got a triple-double in one game and then was traded away from that situation. Nah, the trading of Dominique Wilkins, like, there's certain things. I remember when I touched down in Atlanta and they had the all-black outfield with the Upton brothers and Jason Hayward, and how people were like, we getting back into baseball. And I'm like, okay, well, this is cool, right? This is all right, but, how Josh Smith, Al Horford, and them boys treating you? Like, Atlanta was a very... for the biggest city in the South kind of vibe, and everybody flocking to it. It was a very interesting sports ecosphere when you saw how many people just hated certain teams and why they held on to it like they did. It's kind of like the DC fan. Like, if you don't know Commanders fans and you talk to a certain section of DC fans, you're like, no, we didn't mess with the R skins or the Commanders for a very, very long time. And then you find out the roots of why. And you're like, oh, I get it. I understand.
They really traded Dominique for Danny Manning. like periodically that dawns on me. I'm reminded of that fact that they traded Dominique for Danny Manning. Some
mistakes have been made in that front office.
Again, that's what made me go back and be careful. Like, I still think they being a little ridiculous about the Luka trade, right? Like, I still think they are. But that's how I felt about a 30-something-year-old Dominique Wilkins after an Achilles. Right?
And
like, it wasn't like they traded 25-year-old Dominique.
Really a career ender.
It wasn't like they traded 25-year-old Dominique, right? They didn't trade Dominique right before the dunk contest in Chicago, right? They traded an older version of Dominique. It wasn't the most unreasonable thing to do. It just seemed terrible because the Hawks were finally good. And then I can't believe they traded Dominique.
By the way, Dominique got robbed in that 88 dunk contest. Robbed. Absolutely robbed.
You know, and if you
Who else?
You know who else I think would agree that he got robbed? Scottie Pippen.
Oh, now he would agree. Now he would not back then. And if you want to do, because I heard you talking about this gentleman a couple of pods ago, if you want to go back and take a look at, you know how like when we used to watch cartoons, well, I don't know if you watch cartoons as a kid, but like you go back and watch some of those old Bugs Bunny, some of those old Looney Tunes, you go, oh, okay, the shotgun shooting backwards makes that face and those lips. Oh, I got you. Go back and listen to Rick Barry's color commentary on the dunk contest.
Oh, on the dunk contest. No, I have not heard that.
Oh, no. There are some things in there where you're like, ooh, I don't know if you could say that back then. But now, what? Cancel City.
Rick Barry tried to have, or he should have, $100 million.
Why is that?
Pre Larry Bird, man. It wasn't really no white dude quite cold like that cold.
No, Rick was the man. He was part of the team that ousted that Norm Van Leer, Jerry Sloan squad back in the day.
That's
Western Conference Finals.
He won a world championship. He won all of that. Everybody hates his guts. So everybody does.
Damn. Who's the hateable white man in the NBA right now?
I mean, they ain't really got enough to be doing that. Like Bill Laimbeer was a hateable white man.
Right.
Like that's how you knew how dirty Bill Laimbeer was. They didn't even try to shine that shit up. Now, maybe part of why they didn't try to shine it up was that Laimbeer, like white people already had the Celtics, and so Laimbeer was like the enemy of them. And so he blended in with all the black dudes he was already playing with. And Bill Laimbeer was the kind of white person that white people don't like. Like his pops had paper. Nothing was ever his fault. You know what I'm saying? All of that stuff. And you know, Larry Bird absolutely hated Laimbeer. And a big part of why Larry Bird hated Laimbeer was that Bird's mom liked Laimbeer. Because Laimbeer, you got to remember, Bird's from Indiana. Laimbeer went to Notre Dame. And so Bird's mom had a familiarity with Laimbeer's game. And so she liked Laimbeer. Bird hated Laimbeer.
Of course. You're not gonna be my mama. I'm one of the greatest of all times.
Bird
you out here liking this
Bird
dude.
threw that basketball to hit Laimbeer in the face that time. Like Bill Laimbeer is the most hateable basketball player who has ever lived. There is nobody I can think of that we all agree that we hate Bill Laimbeer. Robert Parrish whooped Bill Laimbeer's ass in the middle of the game and didn't get kicked out, I don't think.
That's quite the distinguishable label, because you don't have too many guys who aren't a part of a team that is hated as much as the Pistons, and that be the supreme hateable dude. Like usually it's a conglomerate. Usually it's like, okay, we don't like you mentioned, the Celtics, or we don't like Duke for whatever reason, or well, not for whatever reason, the obvious reasons, or you don't like, back in the Mars shot days, oh, look at the Reds and look what they trying to do. Free Eric Davis and free all these dudes. Right. Bill Laimbeer was such the supreme king of the hateable white dudes. And like you mentioned, I was trying to think about it while I was talking about it. I don't know if there's a dude who is like Cooper Flagg has grown to be a dude who I think we're gonna love no matter what, because there's kind of like the homogenization of cultures that goes on in basketball nowadays that maybe didn't have to go on back in the day. Like I knew Frank Brakowski didn't hang out with Sean Kemp and Gary Payton when the games were over. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know about that. I was reading Jeff Pearlman's book on the Showtime Lakers. And it sounded like Frank Brakowski had a little get down.
Really?
Dog, that's the thing about the NBA. They gonna have
Jack
to learn.
Jack
Haley, they gonna have to learn. Who else they gonna kick it with?
But if you can get a team, like if you get 2 or 3 white dudes on an NBA team.
If you get what on a what?
Hey, but hold on, Bo. Who you talking to right now? I don't know if you have seen the undertaking that is going on here in Chicago when it comes to the roster.
I hear you there. All I'm saying is this. Take Frank Brakowski, for example, right?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, while Frank Brakowski was on the Sonics, the homie Detlef was also on the Sonics. I don't know what you know about Detlef, but if Frank Brakowski, according to your assumption, was looking for a kindred spirit in Detlef Schrempf, No, sir. Detlef Schrempf was a little bit more like Boris Becker. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh,
a little bit more like Dirk. You know what I'm saying?
Chocolate models.
Might be some tinfoil on that plate, if I'm not mistaken. That's what they be saying about Detlef.
Okay. All right, I'm not mad at it.
That's all I'm saying is it's been a long time since it's really been enough white boys on the basketball team. Well, maybe the Celtics, right? Because they got to make sure the Celtics, Red Auerbach, hell yeah, you know what I'm saying? He looking at that. They got that Hauser, they got that Cornette. You know what I'm saying? They got that.
I'm not gonna give you Peyton though. Peyton got that something to his game. Like he go to the Kingdom and to the Rock every once in a while.
Good white boys too. Like sometimes he missed, he overshot the mark. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you know.
Yeah, no. And now with Tyler Hero and White Dante, like the white brethren have kind of made sure
the Celtics, but the Celtics wasn't trying to get no White Dantes, right? Celtics was just getting white. Now, one of them, Porzingis, is the closest to the median of them white boys they ever done had. Brian Scalabrine, that wasn't like that. You know what I'm saying?
Damn,
Danny Ainge.
I can't even put it on history either.
Yeah, Danny Ainge, Joe Klein, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Jerry Seekting, Rick Carlisle, Chris Ford. Yeah. Like they was just wasn't none of them, wasn't no know what I'm saying, white boys. You know, maybe Dino Raja from Croatia.
Remember that was the thing with the overseas play, like Tony Kukoc and Dino Raja were the first ones where, ooh, look, it's the new overseas breed of player who's 6'10" and can do everything, but he might be soft. And now the entire league is the new breed of overseas player. Speaking of Western Conference Finals, I want to ask you this. SGA, Anthony Edwards, you've been talking this Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese thing. I think we might have ourselves a, shall we say, interpersonal kind of battle in the community of who you might be leaning towards.
I would just
very clear too.
I would just make the point that one of them is from Canada. And
that can't be the only point though, Bo.
In terms of what you just brought up, one of them is from Canada. Like, we got to start waving that red, white, and blue around here when it comes to the Ant-Man. And I don't mean the red, white, and blue like Uncle Sam. I mean it like Apollo Creed, right? We got to do this for Paulo, dog. Paulo took a tough L, man. I don't really feel like we as a people have done enough to uphold his memory. You know what I'm saying? You got to stay ready at all times. That's the moral of the story of Apollo Creed. You better stay ready. They always trying to kill you, brother. You got to stay ready. You know what I'm saying? I would honestly love, because I don't like the way Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plays basketball. I'm not into these foul merchants. I don't like Jalen Brunson's foul merchanting, right? Like, I'm not here for that. I would love nothing more than for Anthony Edwards to decide I got something for all y'all.
So you're looking forward to an Anthony Edwards versus Tyrese Halliburton matchup in the NBA Finals then.
Now that right there, that would be the Civil War.
Yes.
If there's any two people that you can tell did not grow up in the same neighborhood, it is Tyrese Halliburton and Anthony Edwards. Now, Gilly the man, Tyrese Halliburton's daddy, he looked like he might have grown up with Anthony Edwards, right? Took a couple turns and detours. And I need to stop calling him Gilly the man, because I have to remember my old ass at this point, I might be older than Tyrese Halliburton's daddy. Like, Tyrese Halliburton's daddy is probably the same age as Gilly the kid. We are at 100%. That point. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where we are.
We the old dudes. We the old dudes.
I tell you this, though, and I don't think that Tyrese Halliburton cares. But, man, he got to do something to stop these people from taking these videos of him pulling up at the spot.
So this is the thing. If you are Tyrese Halliburton, do you stop pulling up with a sprinter, avalanching snow coming out of it? or do you continue to be this, like, there's a real evil villain vibe that I think is growing here where, there's a real like Jack and Jill thing going on. Then you got Ant, who, let's face it, like you can see Ant listening to Cool Breeze and Watch the Hook as he's pulling up with his people. Like, it's two Americas, but distinctly different Americas.
I will just say this before we roll out. After Russell Wilson wound up marrying a woman whose middle name is Princess, Todo es
You got to say it
posible.
as loud as possible, though. Like KG.
Todo es posible.
I can't wait till Tyrese pull up with the...
Yo nunca pensaba que el día podía venir cuando Russell Wilson tiene una esposa. Su nombre centro es Reina.
Okay.
O Reinita. Yo no sé cómo decir princess, but bruh. Never a day. And I told you, I saw them. They look happy as hell too. They look happy as hell. And I've always had my theory on what happened was somebody finally told her, girl, you need to quit messing with them thugs. Get you a good man who loved Jesus, man who loved kids. And boom, what did she find? Built him in a lab.
All those things.
Built him in a laboratory.
And shout out to, getting through those things and still having the time to do that as well.
That's right. That's right. And look, man, he be wearing whatever clothes she set out for him. It don't matter how many zippers it got. It don't matter how many holes they done cut in it. Right? Like, he's just like, whatever you say, baby, whatever you say. And you know what, bro? Yeah. Me too. I would be back out this motherfucker looking like one of the new kids on the block. Russell Wilson be showing up looking like he hanging tough with some of the clothes that she be laying out for him.
Yeah. Like the same way we talk about Jim Jones being the oldest YN out there, Russell Wilson has gotten a swagger that only can be attributed, and this is what happens to us as brothers as we grow older. All of the things that shine about us are given to our significant others, right? Like, she got you together. Look at his skincare routine. Look at his clothes. But for Russell, you can actually look at the beginning, the middle, and this portion of it.
There's no question. There's no question.
She
that
loves
none of
him.
And there's no question that none of this was his idea. It's not just that she loves him. And he reached that point in life that's very important where if you say you don't care, you can't care. Right? So if you don't care, when she laid his stuff out there, all right, there you go. Hey, wow, I've never worn these shiny penny loafers before. I'm not saying that's what he wears, but I'm just saying, like, once that happens,
it's over.
That's the game.
Or it's the beginning of a new life for you. You get to be Russell Wilson in a way. I mean, the rebrand, he kept trying it and it got to the point where it became funny instead of corny. And I want to be very careful what I'm calling corny in this particular climate that we're in this new cycle that we're in. I want to stay away from that because I don't want anybody looking up, my mixed queen and all of a sudden calling me names. What's up with your boys out here, Bo?
Hey, look. This is a little tricky, right? Because I don't really know Robert like that. I know Ryan pretty well, and Robert used to work here, So like, it's a little thing, and we rapping soon. But I don't feel like it, brother. And honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. You bringing that shit to me on my show, it's almost like you don't even really care about my money like that. Like, I appreciate you coming up for the live show the other day. You're like, what do you think about that? That's a phone call. I need to workshop that before I bring this out here in front of anybody else. Shit, man, I just said something about the WNBA on Monday. God knows.
Just saying I didn't want to call anything corny because I was scared of it.
I know. And then you're like, so what do you think? I think you had the right idea. That's what I think.
My bad. Yeah. Back to Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark.
Yeah. That's exactly it. I would much rather talk about that. Good gracious. That before Jason Goff mess up everybody's money. Check him out on the Ringer. Check him out. He ain't gonna mess up my money. We both know that. It just be stressful.
I'm sorry if I did.
I know, brother. It's all good, man. I appreciate you. Check him out at the Ringer. Check him out doing all kinds of Chicago things. My brother, thank you for pulling up the other day. Thank you for joining us here.
Love. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you as always, man. Peace and respect.
All right, man. By the way, you don't know this, man, but them Goffs, they run things down there in Belize. I hear you get off in the airport and you be like, yo, take me I'm with the Goffs. And they be like, cool. We got you. All you gotta do is
say the word, baby. Say the word.
They gonna start bumping that shine in the car. You know what I'm saying?
It got to be shine if it's Belize. Yeah, exactly. As you said the other day, they're giving keys to anybody, right? So
Nah,
Pull up to Belize and find out if you grab one.
I felt bad for saying that, brother.
Don't
Y'all
be.
just ballers. Y'all just ballers.
Nah, we not. You know, looking forward to the Bomani Jones excursion out there. You traveling to Vietnam and Morocco and all these other places. I can't wait till you come down to our little part of the world and hang out with us for a little bit, man. Come on through.
I'm gonna see what it is. You're gonna put me down with the right people. I know that. I'm gonna be like, yo, I'm down here with them Goffs, and they're gonna be like, cool, we got you.
Yeah, for sure.
Pull up, man.
Always, baby.
I appreciate you, Doc. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 3 times a week. Ryan Brumley handling everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Remember, follow The Right Time. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. And we'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.